use his elephant to avoid captures on f6. So gold has probably a couple moves to re-establish control around f3. But that's not going to be so easy to do. If gold could play a second consecutive move here, then pushing into g3 with his cat through the f3 trap would be a very nice move to get some kind of control back around f3. Because silver's pieces would be frozen, and silver would not have so much control around f3. So silver, I think, on this move 25s has to establish a capture threat to avoid gold being able to use all 4 steps on defense. So still this rabbit flip could be done. The upside would be that silver would have a stronger gold attack, but the downside would be that gold would have still an extra piece advance on this wing, and especially a rabbit that would help a lot in the fight. That would make one more remote gold attack possibilities and one more piece which could control f3 without the elephant. So it's not clear. Pushing into f5 with the camel does not seem to work very well either, because gold could just flip this camel away. So it's not that easy on move 25s to make a strong threat. Pulling the dog into e5 and moving the rabbit into f5 is an option. Oh, and actually gold cannot undo this move. So gold could undo this move, but he would lose the repetition fight. So maybe on move 25s, pulling the dog to e5 and replacing it with a silver rabbit on f5 seems to be a very strong move, because it's a capture threat, and it's not undoable by gold. What do you think, Greg?
Oh, sorry, my screen is frozen up. I can't see anything, so I'm trying to reboot everything right now.
Okay. So instead, silver pushes the dog into g5, but that doesn't look so strong, because gold is immediately flipping this camel into f3. So certainly the camel helps enforcing control over f3, but you would rather have this camel around f6 to generate another capture threat on f6 and overload gold's elephant. So I really think this other dog pulling move was very strong for silver on the previous move, and now gold has made back some of his disadvantage, I think, because at least he will be able to hold on to the f6 trap. Maybe not really have a strong attack around f6, but at least hold on to f6 and then hold on to f3 with his elephant and try to re-establish some kind of control. And in the chat room, Megajuster is suggesting clogging up the southeast for gold with more pieces. And indeed, I think he will be looking. He will be trying to do that on the next moves. So on move 26s, silver is retreating with his camel, which makes a lot of sense. And so it's not as forceful as the dog pull would have been on the previous move, I think. But that's still a threat around f6. And it's not easy for gold to re-establish control. So this is not a direct capture threat. So gold could push into g3 on move 27g with the cat. So silver would not be able to capture because the camel is frozen on f5, and so silver would be probably moving the camel into the f6 trap. But then gold on the next move would be able to regain at least temporarily control over both traps by moving the dog into e3 to control f3 and moving the elephant to f5 to avoid a capture on f6. But all that is very, very temporary and very, very shaky. So I think gold can avoid material loss in the next few moves, but long term, strategically, silver is way, way, way ahead here. Do you have your game back, Adanac?
No, I can't even re-enter the website at this time, so I'm still trying, but give me a few more minutes.
Okay, no problem. Tell me when you're back. So on move 27G, I don't really see anything else for gold than pushing into G3, because really gold has to reestablish control without the elephant in the next couple moves over F3. And so if gold just moves, say, a cat to F4 and a dog to E3, that wouldn't work, because silver would still be controlling G3 with the rabbits and F2 with the elephant, and then he would still have a horse to push into F4, and so silver would be able to regain control over F3 and force a capture probably. So it looks to me like gold has to push into G3 with the cat, and then move another piece to E3, and then hopefully another piece will be within reach of F4 to be able to control two of the key squares around F3 without the elephant. So on move 27G, Fritzlein is just scattering away from F6. That's going to buy some time. So that was another option rather than pushing into G3 right now. So I suppose that on move 27S, Tuks is looking for, is going to relocate his camel towards G6 to make some hostage threats and then capture threats around F6. The question is whether gold will have time to re-establish control over F3 with 2 or 3 small pieces. It's not looking too good right now. Framing the rabbits on F3 is probably not an option, because silver would end up unfreezing his own horse and pushing into G3 with his own horse. So yeah, really moving the camel to G6 seems to be a very logical move for silver on 27S. I see in the chat room a suggestion to flip the rabbit into F3, to flip gold rabbit into F3. So that's, as I mentioned previously, that's kind of double-edged. That makes the gold defense in the southwest a little bit weaker yet. But that helps gold having another piece to regain control over F4 without the elephant. And so on move 27S, Tuks decides to stop on G5 with his camel. So he was probably worried that gold would continue scattering away from F6, moving the horse into H8 and the dog into H4 probably, if he had moved his camel into G6. So the dog is frozen now, and silver will be able to threaten it into F6 with the next move. So on move 28G, I suppose gold is certainly looking at pushing into G3 with the camel, with the cat, sorry. Well, silver's horse is unfrozen, so that's another interest of having the camel into G5 and not into G6. Silver's horse is unfrozen, so the horse could push immediately into G3, and that would be rather strong, I think. The horse could push into G3, and maybe, for instance, pull the gold dog into G5 to make a capture threat on F6 on move 28S, and then gold would be able to save the day. So actually, gold is threatening a capture on C3, and silver is not. Well, silver might have to defend. I'm sorry, against this C3 capture. So maybe I was a little bit too much focused on the east. Yeah, probably silver has to use at least one step to move the horse into C4, and actually he's using 2 steps, moving the cat into E4 on move 28S. So yeah, gold could just regain control over F4 without the elephant here on move 29G, if he wants to do so. by moving the dog into e3 first, and then pushing into f5 with his elephant, and finally moving the f3 cat into f4, so that would share control over both the f3 trap and the f6 trap. Well, the concern is that Silver might be able to regain control over f3 by pushing into e3 with his second horse, with his c4 horse. So actually the c4 horse is not only has not only unfrozen the silver cat, but it's also eyeing for the e3 square. So in some variations, it's going to be very nice to have this possibility to push into e3 and regain a total control over f3. So that's an interesting move by Tuks on 28s. So we have the move 29g. Fritzlein is relocating his camel towards the c3 trap, threatening a capture on c3. So I think that was mandatory, since Silver was threatening to push into e3. The gold camel could not remain on f1. It had to recentralize to avoid this dog push, and Silver getting a complete control over f3. So there are lots of options now for Silver. Maybe flipping the g2 rabbit into e2 is actually an option, so that would be a dangerous move, but if gold captures a horse, then Silver gets a strong goal attack and maybe actually a forced goal. I'm not too sure. Maybe not a forced goal. So maybe that's not possible. So otherwise, well, Silver has to probably move his horse away from c4, maybe to c5, and then threaten some kind of capture on f6, maybe by pulling the gold dog into g5. That's an option for Silver. So Tuks is very low on reserve. He's got a very nice position, but not too much time to think about things. So he's got to be very sharp, to think quickly. So it would not be crushing to just pull the gold dog into g5 on this move on 29s, because gold could just use this usual maneuver, pushing into f5 with the elephant and moving the cat to f4, so that would temporarily save everything. Tuks decides against pulling the dog into g5. I think that would have been a nice step. I'm not sure why he didn't pull the dog. I think the tactical threats against the dog would have forced gold to defend very quickly, and probably not as forcefully as gold would have wanted to. So I think tactically that would have been very helpful. As things stand, gold doesn't have to protect anything on move 30g. Gold has 4 full steps to think about something to do. So what gold would like to do in the vacuum is to advance his camel towards g3, hopefully being able to cross the f3 trap and regain control over the crucial g3 square. That would be the best outcome possible for gold. So maybe Fritzlein is envisioning moving his camel to e3 on this move. Instead, he's deciding to scatter away from f6, which is very logical, avoiding a horse hostage on g7 or a dog pulled onto g5. But well, Tuks didn't do it, so that was not such a threat. But anyway, having the dog on h4 is much better for gold than having the dog on g5, because the dog is not threatened, and actually it is freezing the silver rabbit. Well, not freezing, but if the horse moves away from g3, then the silver